Imagine you are launching a global startup today.
Okay.
Your first move is, pretty predictable. You secure massive venture capital, hire an aggressive PR team, curate this flawless social media aesthetic, and put a charismatic founder right at the center to tightly control the narrative.
Right. The standard playbook.
Exactly. But what if your strategy was to intentionally recruit your society's most hated political extremists?
Oh, wow.
Explicitly forbid them from carrying any money, and practically guarantee they would be arrested by the authorities?
That sounds like a terrible business plan.
Right, but that is the exact bizarre playbook of a movement that actually changed the globe. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking you into the ancient architecture of this exact phenomenon.
Yeah, we're relying on a really fascinating commentary on the 10th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, which was written by Mark Bates and sourced from Apologetics.
And our mission for you today isn't just to, summarize an ancient religious text.
Yeah.
We really want to uncover how a deeply controversial grassroots movement was systematically built, mobilized, and deliberately prepared to face intense systemic adversity.
It is a remarkable blueprint to examine, especially when you consider how successful it ultimately was.
Yeah.
But to really grasp what is happening in this text, you have to look at the immediate context.
Here's the setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right before this moment, in Matthew chapters 5 through 7, Jesus delivers the Sermon on the Mount.
Which is huge.
It's a massive public demonstration of authority in his words.
Mm-hmm.
And then in chapters 8 and 9, you have a series of miracles which demonstrates authority in his deeds.
So words and deeds.
Right. But despite all this power being displayed, Jesus looks out at the wandering crowds of the Galilee region, and the text says he is moved with visceral compassion because the people are, harassed and helpless.
Yeah, they're described with this incredible evocative phrase, right? Sheep without a shepherd. Which, feels like such a loaded term. I mean, for a listener today, that might just sound like a quaint pastoral metaphor, maybe a bit sad. But in the ancient world, that was a heavy accusation, wasn't it?
That was a direct indictment.
Really?
Yeah. Calling the people sheep without a shepherd is a direct callback to ancient prophetic laments about the total spiritual and political failure of Israel's leadership.
Oh, wow. So it's pointing a finger.
Exactly. The people are completely vulnerable. So Jesus tells his followers to pray that the Lord of the harvest would send laborers out into this field to do the work. And what's fascinating here is that Matthew chapter 10 is the immediate direct answer to that exact prayer.
He doesn't just wait around.
No, he doesn't just tell them to form a prayer committee. He calls his inner circle, delegates his own authority to them, and sends them out as the laborers.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because in the commentary, Bates points out that this specific discourse bridges a massive gap.
It really does.
It connects Jesus's localized earthly ministry with the future, global mission of the church, the ecclesia. He is equipping messengers to go out, reclaim sacred space, and, heal human brokenness.
Right. So they are stepping into this massive role, carrying an unimaginable level of authority.
But how do you keep that kind of delegated power from instantly corrupting the messengers? I mean, building any movement starts with team selection, and this text reveals a roster that defies, every logical rule of team building.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we get to the who, though, we need to talk about the what. What exactly is this legal framework they are operating under?
Yeah. So Bates highlights that Matthew introduces a specific term for these messengers here for the very first time. But the concept itself derives from a deeply rooted Hebrew legal framework known as the Shaliach.
Shaliach.
Right. A Shaliach is a commissioned agent. The governing legal principle in the ancient world was quite literal. A man's agent is as the man himself.
Okay, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. It sounds like the ancient equivalent of a modern corporate power of attorney.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe being a high-level diplomatic envoy where, when the ambassador speaks, the president is speaking.
That is a perfect way to look at it. They aren't acting on their own autonomous initiative.
Right.
They are entirely reliant on delegated authority to go out and heal, cast out spirits, and preach. They are meant to be a perfect mirror of the sender.
Which makes the actual list of the 12 guys he chose absolutely mind-boggling.
It really is.
I mean, look at this team. How did this group not implode on day one?
It is the ultimate odd couple scenario, but multiplied. The source text dives into the extremes of this roster to show how radical this new kingdom was meant to be.
Right.
On one hand, you have Matthew the tax collector. He's a former Roman official. And to the average Jewish citizen in the first century, a tax collector was a traitor.
Because they work for Rome?
Exactly. This was someone who actively colluded with the occupying pagan empire to extract wealth from his own neighbors.
So a literal agent of the oppressor.
Yes. And sitting in table fellowship right next to him is Simon the Zealot.
Oh, boy.
Right. The Zealots were political radicals. Their entire ideology was dedicated to violent, anti-Roman resistance.
So they were basically insurgents.
Pretty much. In any other context, Simon would likely carry a concealed dagger specifically for someone like Matthew.
Wow.
Yet here they are, united under a single mission.
I'm trying to picture the modern equivalent of that. It would be like forcing two fierce, violently opposed political extremists to share a small tent on a remote survival expedition.
It's a great image.
Right. If they don't focus entirely on the mission, they will literally kill each other. Why take that massive risk when launching a movement? I mean, why not just pick 12 moderates?
Because if you pick 12 moderates, you haven't proven anything about the power of your message. Bates emphasizes that placing Matthew and Simon on the same team acts as a living proof of concept. It showcases the unifying power of the Messiah's reign.
Because if they can get along.
Exactly. If this movement can bridge that vast political and economic divide internally, it proves it has the power to unify anyone.
That makes total sense.
But, the text doesn't shy away from the darker side of human nature either. The roster ominously concludes with Judas Iscariot.
Right, the betrayer.
Yeah. It introduces this tragic tension of internal betrayal right from the start.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are exactly 12 of them is highly symbolic.
Right, the 12 tribes.
Exactly. In that era, commissioning 12 envoys was a massive prophetic signal that the scattered 12 tribes of Israel were being regathered.
Okay, so we have this unlikely, volatile, carefully numbered team assembled, and they're acting as official envoys. They have legal authority.
Yep.
Now they need a strategy. But the strategy they are given is incredibly restrictive, both geographically and economically.
Very restrictive.
I want to start with the geography, because Jesus issues an explicit prohibition right out of the gate. Do not go to the Gentiles, and do not enter any town of the Samaritans. They are told to go only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Right.
Wait, if this is supposed to be a global world-altering movement, why purposefully ignore everyone else at the start? Why the exclusivity?
It is a jarring instruction for a modern reader, for sure. Bates uses a helpful framework from a scholar named Walter C. Kaiser Jr. to explain this, calling it the Promise Plan.
The Promise Plan.
Yeah, this restriction isn't about permanent exclusion or bigotry. It is entirely about theological priority.
Okay.
The concept is, to the Jew first. It honors God's explicit, irrevocable covenant with Abraham. God made foundational promises to the physical seed of Abraham, and this initial mission is honoring those ancient contracts.
So it's like a startup honoring its foundational angel investors before launching the eventual public IPO, like a phased rollout.
That captures the mechanics of it well. It's only later, after the resurrection at the end of Matthew's Gospel, that the mandate expands globally to all nations.
The Great Commission.
Exactly. But in this specific moment, the priority is regathering the neglected flock of Israel.
That clears up the map. But then we get to their packing list, or really the total absence of one.
Yeah, the packing list is wild.
They are explicitly forbidden from taking gold, silver, or copper in their belts. They can't bring an extra tunic, sandals, or even a basic travel bag, the para.
Right.
They are going out into the wilderness with absolutely nothing to fall back on. Doesn't that just turn them into vagrants? How does forced poverty help build a movement?
It forces a state of total reliance, which is an incredibly potent community-building tool. They are operating under a strict protocol of divine stewardship through local hospitality.
Okay, how does that work?
The instruction is to enter a town, identify a worthy household, meaning one receptive to the message, and stay there. They are to offer their profound greeting of peace, their shalom. If the house is worthy, the peace rests there.
I see how that forces integration. I mean, if you have unlimited funding, you can just rent a room at the inn, deliver your speech in the town square, and leave without ever really knowing the people.
Right, you're just a tourist.
Exactly. But if you are relying on someone for your next meal and a spot on their floor, you are forced to build localized trust networks. You become part of the community.
Yes, deeply embedded.
But what happens when that trust isn't reciprocated? Because the instructions for rejection are intense.
So they are.
They are told to shake the dust off their feet. To us today, that just sounds like, okay, whatever, you're lost, we are leaving.
Yeah, a bit dramatic maybe.
Right. But the text says it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. Isn't that a massive overreaction just because someone wouldn't let you crash on their couch?
If they were just ordinary travelers, yes, it would be an absurd overreaction. But remember the Shaliach concept we discussed earlier.
Oh, right. The agent is the sender.
Exactly. To reject the commissioned agent is to explicitly reject the king himself. The eschatological weight, the ultimate eternal consequence of that rejection, is immense.
Wow.
It is a stark reminder to the disciples that while they may appear weak, poor, and dusty, the invisible authority they carry is absolute.
That makes the transition into the next phase of the playbook even more fascinating. Because building localized trust networks is a great grassroots strategy right up until the institutional power structures notice what you are doing.
And they always notice.
They always do. The narrative pivots here from travel logistics to a survival guide for extreme hostility. Jesus literally tells them he is sending them out as sheep in the midst of wolves.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the survival tactic, he gives them relies on a profound paradox of vulnerability.
What do you mean by a paradox of vulnerability?
Well, to navigate this predatory environment, they are told to be shrewd as serpents. The Greek word is phronomoi, which implies strategic, practical wisdom.
Okay.
But that must be intimately combined with being innocent as doves, akarioi, meaning pure, uncompromised integrity.
It reminds me of the advice you might give a whistleblower stepping into a highly toxic, cutthroat corporate industry today.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Like, you have to understand the system's loopholes and the political traps perfectly so you don't get eaten alive. You have to be incredibly shrewd. But you absolutely cannot use those same loopholes to enrich yourself or you just become another wolf. You have to maintain total integrity.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You have to outsmart the predators without adopting their predatory nature.
Which is incredibly hard to do.
Very hard. And the wolves in this context were deeply institutional. Jesus warns them about local courts. He warns about floggings in the synagogues and eventually being dragged before Roman governors and pagan kings. Bates actually notes that Matthew is collapsing the immediate mission in Galilee with the future global persecution of the early church right here in this text.
Let's pause and put ourselves in their shoes for a second. You have been stripped of your money. You don't even have a change of clothes. And now you are promised that the religious and political authorities are going to arrest you, drag you into court, and physically beat you.
Yeah, it's bleak.
And you don't have a legal defense team to prep your statements. How do they not just paralyze with fear?
The text provides what theologians call a pneumatological comfort, basically. A comfort driven entirely by the Spirit, the Ruach Abba, the Spirit of the Father.
Okay.
Jesus promises that when they are standing on trial, they shouldn't be anxious about what to say. The Spirit will actually give them the words in that exact hour.
Does that mean they're just supposed to wing it on the stand?
It means their defense won't rely on human political spin or, clever rhetorical tricks. Their defense will be the unfiltered truth provided by God.
That takes a lot of trust.
It does. Furthermore, Jesus grounds their impending suffering in a master-disciple pattern. He essentially says, a disciple is not above his teacher.
Meaning, whatever happens to the leader is going to happen to the followers.
Precisely. If the religious establishment looked at Jesus, the master of the house, and slandered him by calling him Beelzebul, a demonic lord, the followers should expect the exact same slander.
So the hostility is baked in.
Yeah. The hostility is a guaranteed feature of the mission, not a bug.
But the hostility isn't just external, is it?
Yeah.
It isn't just courts and kings and religious leaders. It penetrates into the most intimate areas of human life.
Yes, it does.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Jesus says something here that completely shatters the sanitized greeting card image we often have of him today. He says he didn't come to bring peace to the earth, but a sword, a Macaron. And he specifically predicts that his message will literally fracture families. Citing Micah 7:6, it's fathers against sons, mothers against daughters. For a modern listener who views faith primarily as a tool for family cohesion and personal peace, this is a deeply uncomfortable passage.
It is uncomfortable, but it is entirely necessary to understand the absolute demands of this movement. In the ancient world, the patriarchal family structure was the core of your entire existence.
Right, it wasn't just about who you ate dinner with.
No, it was your identity, your physical safety, your retirement plan, and your economy. To step away from that was unthinkable.
Yeah.
Jesus is stating that loyalty to the king must supersede even the most primal human bonds. He goes so far as to say that anyone who loves their parents or children more than him is not worthy of him.
And if that wasn't heavy enough, he then introduces the concept of the cross. Bates points out this is the very first mention of the Roman cross, the stauron, in the Gospel of Matthew.
Yeah, that's a huge moment in the text.
We wear crosses as jewelry today. We put them on T-shirts. But what did that word mean to a first-century listener standing there on that dusty road?
It meant agonizing torture, absolute public shame, and the utter loss of self. It was the empire's ultimate tool of humiliation.
So terrifying.
Extremely. Jesus tells them that to follow him, they have to take up their cross. They have to willingly walk toward that shame. To find true eternal life in the world to come, the Olam Haba, they have to be willing to lose their temporal existence, their psyche, and their instinct for self-preservation in this world.
I am trying to synthesize all of this, and honestly, it is terrifying. We are talking about guaranteed institutional beatings, systemic poverty, severe family betrayal, and the very real threat of execution.
It is a lot.
If I am standing in that crowd, how do I not just crumble under the sheer anxiety of all this?
Well, the antidote to that anxiety isn't a promise of physical safety. The Playbook doesn't offer a sudden escape hatch.
No magic shield.
No. Instead, the antidote is a radical shift in who you fear. Jesus explains this by reorienting their perspective. He tells them not to fear the authorities who can only kill the body, the soma, but cannot touch the soul.
Okay.
Instead, they are to fear God, who has the power to destroy both body and soul in ultimate ruin in Gehenna.
Okay, I have to push back on that. So the great comfort Jesus offers his terrified friends is God is actually much scarier than the Romans. That doesn't sound very comforting.
I understand why it sounds that way. It is a sobering reminder of divine justice and ultimate authority. But immediately after establishing that terrifying absolute sovereignty, Jesus pivots to the most tender creation theology imaginable.
The sparrows.
Yes, he uses the illustration of sparrows, the Strauthia. He reminds them that 2 sparrows are sold for a virtually worthless copper coin, an assarion, in the marketplace.
Less than a penny. Like the cheapest, most insignificant transaction you could possibly make.
Exactly. Yet Jesus points out that the sovereign Father governs the fall of every single one of those seemingly worthless birds. Nothing happens apart from his decree.
Right.
And then he looks at his disciples and says, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Bates emphasizes this beautiful tension in the text. The absolute sovereignty of God brackets the intense physical vulnerability of the disciple.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yes, you are being sent out as completely exposed sheep among vicious wolves, but you are being watched over by a creator who values you infinitely more than the sparrows.
That completely shifts the emotional weight of the chapter. You aren't safe from harm, but you are never outside of the Father's meticulous care.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring all of this together. We have journeyed from the calling of a deeply divided, messy group of 12 men. We watched them get stripped of their money and their luggage to force community integration. We saw them prepared for vicious institutional and familial persecution. And we saw them led right to the edge of the cross, anchored only by the care of the Creator. When you look at the whole picture, this deep dive reveals a playbook for what Bates calls non-autonomous living.
That is the defining chord of the entire movement. True discipleship, according to Matthew 10, is defined by that Shaliach framework.
Representing the sender.
Yes. You are representing something and someone vastly greater than yourself in both your words and your deeds. You don't have to invent the message. You don't have to secure your own provisions. Your job is faithful, uncompromised representation.
Wow.
And the ending of the chapter offers a profound encouragement regarding how that representation is ultimately received by the world.
You were talking about the tiered rewards at the very end.
Yes. Jesus reiterates that because of this Shaliach identity, whoever receives the disciple actually receives the Messiah himself.
Right.
And he promises that even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant act of hospitality will be remembered. He specifically mentions giving a cup of cold water, a Paterian psycho, to a vulnerable little one.
Just a cup of water.
Just a cup of water. Because that exhausted messenger carries the identity of the king. Giving them a simple cup of water carries eternal cosmic weight. By receiving the broken, dusty envoy, the host is welcoming the king of the universe into their home.
It completely flips the script on what our world considers valuable. It is not the gold in your belt. It is the cup of cold water given in the right name.
Exactly.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to really mull over.
Yeah.
In our modern culture, we are absolutely obsessed with the concept of personal branding.
Oh, totally.
From our careers to our social media, we are constantly told to build our own platforms, find our authentic, autonomous voice, and construct our own little empires of influence.
Right. It's all about us.
But the entire premise of Matthew 10 relies on the exact opposite. It relies on the Shaliach concept, the deliberate erasing of your own autonomous initiative so that you can perfectly mirror the message, the authority, and the presence of another. So think about your own life, your daily work, your interactions with your community. How would the way you speak and act change today if you viewed yourself not as an independent actor frantically trying to build your own kingdom and protect your own reputation, but as an official envoy? What would it look like to carry the exact weight, the exact authority, and the exact peace of the one who sent you? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.